This week will go into the annals of history as the week when our constitutional democracy passed the test and established the fact that no one in our democracy is above the law and the Constitution, whatever their status. Our Constitutional Court has unanimously made the point that if anyone was allowed to defy the courts and work outside the law, this would lead to lawlessness and thereby destabilize our country. We are meeting here to call on all South African people to respect the judgment of the Constitutional Court, as we have said before. We meet here, and I would like to clarify this, not to celebrate anybody who's going to jail. This is a tragedy and could have been avoided by complying with the Constitutional Court to appear at the State Capture Commission.
None of us, whether we're a cleaner or president, have a right to disregard the court's list of all the pinnacle of that court system, because if one of us is allowed to do it, all of us would soon decide that we are above the court system. So it saddens me today that we're sitting here with somebody, President Zuma, who I have had a lot of fondness for, and I've dealt with him as a leader of this country. Today, he has chosen to ignore the rule of law, and now he faces the prospect of going to jail. And the question is being asked, should the Constitutional Court have had mercy? I think it did. It asked President Zuma over and above to respond to the possibility of going to jail. And that, I believe, complies with Section 12 of the Constitution. Was President Zuma treated worse than former President Botha, which then would be a social justice violation? Definitely no. President Botha, former President Botha, firstly, came from a regime that behaved like kings. And therefore, he's not the gold standard with which we should measure what happens in our constitutional democracy. But more than anything else, he did not act in contempt of any court, least of all the pinnacle of our democratic court system.
This judgment is a courageous act of judicial independence and underlies the importance of strong institutions in our society and in our democracy. It is true that the courts are the last bulwark against bullying and often anti-democratic threats against our constitutional order. And it is encouraging for all South Africans to see that the Apex Court has taken a decisive stance against unwarranted attacks on its authority, its effectiveness, and its legitimacy as the final arbiters of our Constitution. As a result of what happened this week, we are a stronger constitutional democracy than we were a week ago. Let us protect and defend that.
MK should not allow itself and its history of heroic struggle to be tarnished by these current actions. And we also want to say, as the SACP, we reject and firmly condemn the reckless statement by Carl Niehaus on possible violence in KZN. And we characterize this as extremely irresponsible and unacceptable. And we distance ourselves from it, and the MK that we are party to establishing jointly with our ally, the ANC. And therefore, we call on the collective leadership of our movement to speak out and condemn any possibility for the intention to use our former combatants to breed violence in our country. There's no need for violence and war. There's a need in this particular period to deepen the unity of the people behind the Constitution and to develop our Constitution and our democracy and to deepen the rule of law and to defend the rule of law.